Oh,
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And we're now going to do another impactful panel discussion on education. Before we move on with this further, let me remind you all that according to the UNICEF data, there's 22.8 million children out of school in Pakistan, and the total number of enrolled school students is around 25 million only. There are nearly as many out of school children as there are in school. With these stats, wouldn't it be challenging task to incorporate a uniform curriculum throughout Pakistan? Now, in order to speak about this and give us varying perspectives, I have here Mr. Nasir Raza Zaidi from the Pakistan Academic Consortium. He's going to be the moderator for this panel. And Nasir Saab, the floor is all yours.
First of all, thank you very much for taking us on board today, and good afternoon, rather good evening, everyone, all the listeners. Today, the topic that has been assigned to us is single national curriculum. That has also been, I think, talk of the town for quite some time now. And from the platform of Pakistan Academic Consortium in collaboration with Ministry for Education and Professional Training, we have also been pursuing same goals, that is propagating the message, propagating the benefits of single national curriculum. And when we say single national curriculum, we are talking about diminishing all the differences between the different systems of education prevailing in Pakistan. And we are talking against the class system in education, be it the socio-economic classes, be it the demographic classes. We are trying to bring in, we are trying to develop a landscape, an education landscape where every single child is given same opportunity of learning, whether he or she is enrolled in a government school, in a private school. So this is a little brief introduction about the single national curriculum. And today we have got an excellent panel with us. We have got Mr. Mohammad Rafique Tahir, who happens to be the Director General of National Curriculum Council. Along with that, he is also serving as Joint Advisor to the Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training. Along with him, we have got Mr. Arsalan Faruqui, who is the CEO of Practical Schooling System and the Senior Vice President for PAC. Then we have with us Ms. Fajer Rabia Pasha. She is associated with Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education. Then we have with us Mr. Syed Azfar Hussain, who is the Program Manager for National Incubation Center. So to begin with, Mr. Arsalan, I would like to ask you that since I know you closely and what endeavors you have been putting from the last 1 or 2 years regarding this entire campaign, regarding this entire endeavor of single national curriculum, can you please let us know how have these schools adapted to the changing dynamics of online learning? First of all, let's come to the online learning that out of this pandemic we have been forced to do so.
Yes, Alaikum Nasir and all the other panelists. Thank you so much for having me on the discussion today. So yes, the dynamics have been changing rapidly, at least since the beginning of 2020. And it was difficult for many schools to get on the bandwagon when it was much required. Schools which were already using technology, they didn't have much issues adapting to the changing world. But schools which were old school, which were mostly non-technical, they were book-based, they didn't have the gadgets and the technology and the personnel to manage their IT. They faced the most difficulties that time. Eventually, everybody understood that without adapting to this changing world and using technology for online education, they could not survive. So they took their sweet time, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, but eventually most of the schools got on to this online learning system. And I believe the change was immense, but now many schools are on board and they are trying their best with the available resources they have to at least avoid the wastage of time and wastage of resources that we were facing last year, and to avoid any kind of loss from the parents or from the student side. So yes, the changing dynamics have impacted all schools, the entire schooling fraternity, but they have struggled really hard. And I would say 90% of the schools are on board to this changing dynamics now.
Very true. Thank you very much for such a brilliant input. And I think that yes, be it mandatory for us, or you say that it's need of the time, that we all have become the natives of this digital world, and we have to accommodate our lifestyle, our education system, definitely for that. Mr. Azfar, I think you are with us. Mr. Syed Hussain, first of all, thank you very much for sparing time for us today and being with us. I think you can listen to me.
Yes, I can hear you well.
That's great. That's great. Mr. Aswar,
Can you hear me?
oh, yes, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Mr. Aswar, since you are associated with the National Incubation Center and you have got great exposure with what these startups are doing these days, so how you can relate the element of EdTech and the notion of these startups? Can you develop some sort of equation that how this digital transformation is working for the development of new projects as far as the education industry is concerned? And you say that in what ways technology can aid the education system?
Thank you, Nasir Saab, and thank you to the CXO Global Forum and PSC for jointly hosting this one. This is a very important topic. I think so. The edtechs were kind of prepared for this COVID. Uh, Most of them were working on developing a content which is actually relates to the theme of our discussion today, which is single national curriculum. So the content developed by most of these edtechs is basically same for for the entire country, or maybe a global kind of a curriculum, or something that is very similar to what we can achieve in let's say in developed countries. Also teaching some of the uh, students, you can say, through edtech learnings, especially the coding side of it, robotics, something that has to do with global challenges, and also the skills that we need as a developing nation to kind of make ourselves at par with what's happening around the world. So our edtechs were ready. Some of the edtechs working in Pakistan, be it Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, the big cities, they have this vision of transforming education landscape through technology. But the biggest challenge for most of them is obviously having that technology uh, have that link to the teachers and the parents and eventually the end users of it, the students. So the technology in some cases was a bit complex for the usage of all the stakeholders involved. So they actually learned from it, because the product, all of the products from these edtechs became popular because of COVID and restrictions of COVID. So they have developed, they have evolved. Many of them, like at CASA, Knowledge Platform, Muse, they have collaborated with the government of Pakistan as well, especially the Ghar Talim initiative and other similar initiatives, and even the bottom of the pyramid, or the education that our friends like Fajer, they work with the downtrodden, and those who are, most of them, who are out of the school, or at the very uh, base of the community. uh, they can also benefit from this kind of transformation, if not exactly the digital one, but the hybrid one. So in my opinion, most of the edtechs were ready for it, and with edtech education, they have developed something that
Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great input, Mr. Aswar. And we have got Ms. Fajer Rabia Pasha. She's representing Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education today. Ms. Fajar, first of all, I would like to welcome you on behalf of the CXO Forum and PAC. I think you are here with us. Can you listen to me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Ms. Rabia, since you are, looking at the issues of girls and as far as their education is concerned, I would like to ask you that what is the role of single national curriculum in reducing the racial inequalities? We are talking about the entire landscape of Pakistan.
Yes. Bismillah, I think, wherever we see globally, whichever country we go to, we find that there's always a single curriculum that is implemented throughout the countries. And what that does is that it promotes equality amongst all people. Now, I work, on ground, especially with communities who come from very disadvantaged background, very vulnerable communities or middle class communities. And then on the other end, in our offices, we interview young people who come from very high-end backgrounds, from high-end universities like Nazir, NUMS, etc., for our own work. We also interview students for for our own work from universities like Azfar and lots of different universities, right? And everywhere you go, you see such a difference in terms of a the racial differences in the last couple of decades have increased massively. There's just so much division between Punjabis and Balochis and Sindhis and Pathans, whatever because why? Because we've not had a single curriculum that promotes nationalism. In any country you go, you would have one narrative that is built. And people are considered equal, regardless of what background you come from, regardless of what region you come from. Many countries have different regions, different states, different cultures, and that's perfectly fine. We need to promote that. But then being a Pakistani, that also needs to be promoted. So what tends to happen is that when we are on ground, what we see is that there's a lot of difference because people feel, I don't know, at times, they would say one, certain community from one certain region would feel more privileged than the other community in another region. What the curriculum, I believe, would do is reduce that and would promote equality amongst everybody. And I think this would be a key, achievement as a country because of the issues that we've seen in the past, and we know how curriculum has been used to promote terrorism as well. To promote a certain narrative. I think that would really help reduce that and really promote equality amongst, regardless of what area, region you come from in the country. Having that, I think, really helps. And I think globally, and I know a lot of people, we had a lot of who and ha cry about it in Pakistan, but anywhere you go, anywhere in any country, to maintain peace, to maintain equality, to promote opportunities for all countries implement a single curriculum. And I'm really glad it's too late, to be honest, for Pakistan, but it's finally happening. It's a long process, it's a phase-wise process, but at least it has started. And in the next, I think, a decade or so, we'll see the impact of this, inshallah.
Oh, that's really very true. And as you stated, that giving equal opportunities to everyone across the board, that ignoring all the socio-economic differences and whether they are living in the rural or urban areas, there should be some uniformity in the curriculum so that our children can get the equitable opportunities of learning across country. Arsalan, I would like to ask you, since you are very much active in the field and you have also been part of this in the development of single national curriculum, organizing the symposiums. Do you see that this online learning will also continue after this pandemic?
Definitely. Even if it's not completely, maybe it will continue as a hybrid model, which is more likely now. Because even if the pandemic is over, inshallah, whenever it's over, schools will have to adapt to a hybrid model, book and online both, because this is here to stay. This system works. You don't know, maybe if the pandemic is over, there can be another calamity waiting for us. And if we're not ready for it, then again, we'll have the same disaster that we witnessed in 2020. So schools have to gear up. They have to get on the bandwagon of tech. They have to train their teachers. They need IT staff, good qualified IT staff on board. and online learning will continue. Maybe not wholly, but at least as a hybrid model. Schools will have to adapt to it, even if it's a post-COVID situation. Maybe it helps in many different ways. I mean, your audience, the audience that you are able to reach out to, it's immense. You can tutor someone sitting in North America. You can tutor someone sitting in the Middle East. During the pandemic, we as school owners, we faced another situation where expats sitting in Saudi or Middle East, they approached us. They said that we are having issues. We cannot travel back. We are stuck, and we have no schools to go to. We cannot pay their tuition fees, so we need Pakistani schools to support us. So here, many schools, including ours, we reached out to them. We helped them in any way, and that was entirely done online, so that their school year would not go to waste. So you can now imagine what potential do we hold, because we have one of the best teachers in the world, I must say. Teachers who are hardworking, who are committed, and they can now they're IT trained as well. So this is an opportunity that Pakistani schools can use. We have excellent internet communication. We used to have broadband. Now we have fiber optics. We have good high speed internet available here. So why not use that and then reach out to the international audience and benefit the international students sitting around the world? So this model has to be continued, I must say.
That's really great. And I think, yes, it has also given us an opportunity, this online learning. And out of this pandemic, when we are talking about what are the positive outcomes and where are the learning curves involved, that now even a country like a developing country like Pakistan is in a position to portray itself at global forums. And we have got an opportunity, our educators, our education institutions, our teachers have got an opportunity to portray to the world what talent do we possess. Mr. Asfar, I have observed that you are very much active with this, all the startups and the people who are now entering different sort of industries, be it education, be it technology, be it STEM or STEAM programs. So how do you actually think that would SNC, when we are talking about single national curriculum, that in what ways technology can assist the inculcation of single national curriculum in rural and urban areas of Pakistan? Can you link? Is there any sort of linkage between these two things?
Thank you. So I think so. The development we have had in the last month or so, where Facebook is investing into the fiber optic network of Pakistan, and they have contacted with one of a large telecom operators in Pakistan. So they are very eager to have the internet service across regions of Pakistan. This is a very healthy development, and that will also help in the overall of having quality internet across Pakistan, and that will obviously help the edtechs as well as overall the internet infrastructure, especially when we use for essential services, including education. So the startups, they can easily be, I think, so the best way to try test and trial anything. The focus of startups in throughout Pakistan have been to kind of given productize things and to offer even content, the school management services, the learning management services, the different security features that schools can adopt. All of them have been very much customized, and at the same time, most of them have found a code to get kind of a one-stop solution for the entire education fraternity. So when it comes to single national curriculum, I think so. Starting with, like I mentioned earlier, starting with skills like basic skills like coding, basic skills like that can improve the creative side of critical and critical thinking of students. That can be done at a very initial level. Uh, Maths, Urdu, science, and uh, can be done at a very with the aid of technology can be done, can be uh, made one step for everyone. That can be done using technology. All content can be gathered at one place using technology. This content can be recorded and broadcasted through technology so that the uniformity uh, can be achieved using technology. But essentially, before that, we need to work on the infrastructure side of it. We need to assure that most of the schools, most of the educational institutions, and the students that are accessing it outside schools have the necessary infrastructure to get the same message across. But what technology can help, in my opinion, is the uniformity on the skills side. And if we focus on that as an experiment to start with, we can get better results. Especially coding can be done for, let's say, students starting from fifth or sixth. It can be done even earlier, but let's say we started from fifth or sixth and have it uniform across Pakistan. We can have a good experiment of getting a coding through this uniform policy. Then we can go into other subjects because the languages will be an issue for most of the students. There will be other subjects issues as well. So, in my opinion, we can try it with coding, and some of the startups have developed it across Pakistan. Let's work with them. Let's give them a start. Let's give them a chance to work it on a uniform level. So, in my opinion, let's start small with some skills and then move forward with subjects and other. So technology can be immediately with the skill set. They can help with the skill set. So
That's very true, and even
let's
I would
start
like
with
to
robotics and with
second.
coding and Python.
I would like to second with what you are saying, and we have got examples of, like we have got endeavors like Talim, and there are a lot of other examples which have a successful proven track now. Mr. Aswar, one thing more that since you are in this tech industry, that I was going through an article of Guardian in the recent past, and they have mentioned that in Pakistan, when we are talking about online learning of school-going children, so what statistical inference they have drawn is this, that there are not more than 1 million students in in entire Pakistan. We are talking about the whole country, not talking about the rural areas specifically. That there are only 1 million children in Pakistan who have an access to a smartphone along with an internet. While you know that when we talk about the school-going children, their overall the figure is in tens of millions. So how we can reduce this gap? And do you see? And would you like to suggest, is there any specific role of the provincial and federal governments or the Ministry of IT and Telecom that they should come up with some solutions for school-going children, or offering them internet at some cheaper rates just to increase their span?
So we have the Universal Services Fund, USF, that is it's a government entity that was created to improve the tele density in Pakistan. So USF, in its charter, has this mandate to even help educational institutes and obviously other factors like e-commerce and other important integral parts of economy, but education is one of them. So USF can be aligned to the goal of single national curriculum, but when it comes to the real penetration of internet, smartphone devices, and uh, I just uh, there's a very interesting concept of one laptop per child, which was actually conceived by Nicholas Negroponte back in 2005, 2006, and we had no smartphones back then. Uh, we can emulate the concept. The concept was great. It was like if a child gets a laptop with some content, they can do self-learning. It did not work back then because the cost of having one laptop was way too much. It's still not that cheap, but but things have improved because of the invention of the smartphone. So what can be done is to have, and we have seen that government have incentivized various manufacturers. The smartphones will now be developed in the country. We will have different processing facilities to have the infrastructure made in Pakistan, and with organizations like the USF and Facebook coming in and investing into our fiber optic systems, we can have a larger penetration of internet for sure at a very cheaper cost or a very subsidized one. Maybe let's see if there is help from some other source as well. Maybe at a very at some places can be absolutely free. So when this situation arrives, which is very near in my opinion, the use of internet, the access of internet, the use of smart devices or the laptop for every child, that's very much possible. Then the great concept of uniform curriculum, which I really like what Fajer mentioned of having this uniformity in the national thinking as well, where no city or region of Pakistan is left behind, and we can do that with the national curriculum. And like Arsalan mentioned, that schools are now even eager to take on technology. The teachers are well prepared. I think so it's a great time for us to launch something which can be applied nationally, especially in the tech side, starting with robotics or starting with coding, and then just give it a go and get the results which we are looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Asfar. Thank you very much for such thoughtful input. And Ms. Fajar, since you have got a great exposure with girls' education, especially those who are, living in the low-lying areas or the underprivileged areas, even, and you have got an equal exposure with the rural and urban communities. Would you like to add something to it, Ms. Fajar?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Oh,
So I think, in fact, there are two things, 2 points I want to add to Arsalan's point as well. I think in a positive way, what pandemic has done, that apart from it's really increased, it's given us increased access to education for children with disabilities, for example, because we are, to be honest, as a country, we've been really poor at providing education to children with any disabilities. Only very privileged class has been able to afford any education for, if they have any children with any sort of disabilities. Any other education that has been delivered is very poor quality. We're still not moving towards inclusive in education in our government schools or even in our private schools. So I think use of EdTech would give us that great access, an opportunity to develop more content that is more suitable for children with any sort of disabilities at all. And adding to Asfar's point, I think, like you mentioned, only about 1 million children across Pakistan has been able to access EdTech during pandemic. Majority of the children in our country have not been able to access any learning opportunity, and which is pretty sad, because we're already looking at 22.8 million children who are not going to school, and pandemic has added at least another million children who've dropped out of school during this process, during the pandemic, because of economic challenges, because people have moved away back to villages where there is no education already. So we've seen a lot of chaos on ground when it comes to schooling and education. And unfortunately, while we say that, Pakistan has done great in terms of developing tech content, great, and that needs to be now. Next step needs to be that how to increase that access to children who have no access to technology. Was first point that yes, we are moving towards producing our local technology, which is obviously it helps, it reduces the cost, but you're still looking at families who can't even afford. Forget about a smartphone, but not even a simple standard phone like the old Nokia phones. We work with families, and the families, the children who come to our schools, and for example in Quetta, They don't have any phones at all, nothing at all. No TV at home, no radio at home, no phones at home. How do you support these children? I mean, I think that's a big, big, big question for us. And I think, according to our estimate, really, on top of the 2 million children who have no access to education whatsoever, have had 22 million children whose learning had been completely. Very privileged class has been able to, access edtech, or online learning. That's something, we need to think about. We need to, in fact, all the that have done well with implementing edtech in their schools, I think they need to come to the field who are working on work with the government schools to increase that as well. I think that's the points that I wanted to add. That to understand our ground realities are very different. There are many children, especially girls. I mean, one of the biggest challenge we've had during pandemic is that even if we would provide a tablet, let's say for a girl who can continue education at home, the challenge we've had is to be allowed to use a tab or a smartphone because the family, the father, the brother would allow them access to they would allow that. There's so much poverty that they would just simply and sell them so they can put food on their table. I think, as a country, discussing edtech is great. I'm in love with edtech because it just, when we're talking about providing this could be brilliant tool implementing a single curriculum. Also mean that you could have very interactive programs. So if somebody is sitting in Beacon House, for example, could be learning from the same tools and same interactive learning while somebody in, I don't know, somewhere in the Amar is sitting and learning from. So that could be something very positive, but that requires huge amount of investments, a lot of investments, and we need to go towards hybrid model. Maybe we just have classroom-based edtech learning, that is facilitated by the teachers. So we can look at the larger section of a society. So we can look at the children and especially girls who otherwise wouldn't be able to access any learning at all. And that's all. Thank you.
No, that was such a brilliant input, and I think the way I would like to appreciate the role of Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education, the way you people are propagating education in Pakistan, and not only education. I think there is also a lot of other community endeavors that you people are taking in. I am following you on the social media and witnessing all those activities. Uh, Arsalan, do you really think then when we are talking about online learning avenues in Pakistan? Uh, these days, since we are seeing that the schools are going to open in a staggered manner, phase wise, and there is no such a decision in Sindh, but yes, in other provinces, the schools are opening phase wise. Do you really think, Arsalan, that in a country like Pakistan, where we don't have proper internet access to the masses, can we opt for online assessments at this phase?
Uh, it is a challenge. Let's admit it that it is a challenge, and transparency is a big concern. Accountability is a big concern, not just in Pakistan. Currently I'm in USA right now, and I met a lot of people here who are associated with academics and people who are in schools and universities and colleges. Even here, it's a big challenge. They cheat. They know all the tricks to deceive an examiner online. The booty system and using online resources to get along. And people have been coming out with brilliant ideas. Even back in Pakistan, I heard that there's a school which asked them to put a mirror in the background just to see that they're not using any other gadgets or any of the books. So it's a constant struggle. Schools are coming up with innovative ideas to eliminate this menace of cheating, and many have been able to do it. But obviously, it won't be 100%, 100% clear and transparent system. There will be leakages. There will be elements of cheating and malpractice. But again, we have to move forward. We have to find a way, at least, even if it's 60 or 70% success, then at least we can move forward with online assessment systems. But we should keep in mind that at any first available opportunity, we should try for on-site exams. That is necessary because schools can manage it well. I don't know, because we see a lot of people flocking in malls. We see people in market areas. We see people in parks, in entertainment areas, and those people are unregulated. I mean, let's say some malls are doing it, but many entertainment and public areas are unregulated. People are just roaming around. People from all socioeconomic backgrounds are mingling. So schools at least have the staff and the team to discipline their teams and their students. So it's not a big deal for them. If the government can come up with very strict SOPs for schools and monitor them, all the government has to do is just monitor. They have the different teams on the district levels, on UC levels. They can mobilize those teams. They can do random checks and target those schools which are not following these SOPs. And I'm sure schools can come up with their own SOPs. They can do whatever they can within their own resources. And I think this is all about online assessments and on-site exams. Schools should be ready for both. I mean, come up with brilliant ideas. There's a platform by the name of exams.net. Many schools are utilizing that platform. Then people have their own different ways of collecting answer scripts and having online exams. Similarly, for schools which are not within schools which are off urban circuit, the rural areas, there is a big challenge. So they can have some satellite schooling systems over there, small areas on district levels where they can be made to sit on for on-site exams, because obviously providing them with online gadgets will be a challenge for this government. They can try. They can involve different NGOs. They can involve different. Even Microsoft can be involved, because our current prime minister has the clout. He has been socializing with the right kind of people right now, and if they can be asked to invest in this country, if they can provide the necessary gadgets and all. But again, Fajer was right. There are socioeconomic issues that we have to keep in mind. Especially when it comes to girls' education, if they carry that gadget to their home, we are not sure that maybe their fathers will take that gadget away. Their brothers will be using that gadget for making TikTok videos. So this is a reality we have to face. So it has to be a very controlled and enforced system in those areas. Possibly, if they can have those centers where they can have a model lab or a testing system, and these students can be made to go over there and appear in those exams, that can work out. It all depends on how strictly those SOPs can be implemented. And then an element of trust has to be developed in schools, in colleges, and universities. And they should be made to follow those SOPs. I'm sure they will come up with brilliant ideas and they can give results. So it's not something impossible. It's just that the government has to trust the schooling and university and college communities and let them come up with a system. And all they have to do is just monitor and penalize all those who are not following the SOPs.
Thank you very much. And since we are now heading towards the conclusion of this segment of ours, do you really see that SNC is going to fill up the much needed void by using IT education in Pakistan? This is my last question for you. Yeah.
Yes, SNC can significantly add up to this, because first process was to standardize education. This can run parallel, because we cannot eliminate the Cambridge system and metric system altogether, but they can start with a basic model that can be standardized and then can be implemented throughout the country. And from what I've learned about SNC throughout these sessions we had on the platform of Pakistan Academic Consortium, it has the element of research. It has the element of incorporating tech in education. So SNC can be a good tool for giving it a head start. It can be a good tool to implement those models and those tools throughout the country on a very uniform and stable level. So SNC can be used as similarly the current pandemic, the aftermath of whatever happened. people have learned, schools have learned. So if SNC can deliver on these lines, I think it shouldn't be impossible. It can be made possible, and this platform and the dynamics of SNC can be a big help for incorporating online learning.
Thank you very much. Coming back towards you, Mr. Syed Azfar Hussain, you know that when we are talking about the tech industry, when we are developing a correlation between tech and education, do you really see that we need to manage the content that is available on the internet for our children, their access to that content overall? And do you really think that there is a need for real-time monitoring through technology, as Arsalan has just pointed out, that it is not only happening in Pakistan, it's a global issue now, that when the children are being assessed online, there are a lot of malpractices, unfortunately, which are that we come to know that children are engaged in such kind of malpractices when they are asked to appear in online exams. So this is my last question from you. So can you add some thoughts on it?
Hello. Sorry, I lost
Okay, I think Asfar is having some internet issue, and certainly there are issues. We are witnessing that yes, technology has got some issues as well, and Mr. Asfar is facing right now. Miss Fajer, I think you are with us. Miss Fajer, can
Can
you
you
hear
repeat
me?
the question?
Oh yes, yeah. I'm just going to
Yeah, I
ask.
can hear you. I
Uh,
can hear you fine. Could
uh, do you really see that as far as the implementation of single national curriculum is concerned, that what we have observed in the last 2 years, we were talking about the narrative building and all of these things, but yes, from August 2021, we know that the single national curriculum will be in its implementation phase. Do you really think that there is a role for women in building narratives as far as the single national curriculum is concerned and as far as the edtech industry is concerned? Can you relate in between these two things?
if I'm getting your question right, because my it got a bit disruption as well in between. But I mean, of course, yes. I think both needs to be planned hand in hand. I think that's where the policymakers and everybody who's sitting at the at the helm of affairs needs to be very careful about. Really need to have holistic approach and a complete plan in place in terms of. I think if you look at Pakistan and our situation, so it's like starting again. You see, we could always just start fresh because we have a lot of issues and education emergency in Pakistan at the moment as well. So this is good time to have a complete plan, a phase-wise plan. Nothing's going to happen overnight. Things will take time to change. May that be EdTech, may that be single national curriculum, the adaptability, the acceptance. There are a lot of issues that we're talking about because we have to make sure all the stakeholders are engaged, all stakeholders accept it, and then they implement it in its true spirit. So I personally believe that it needs to be planned, it needs to be integrated, and education reforms that Pakistan need. We also need to look at that as well. I think when we're looking at curriculum, but we also need to look at children, young children, especially who come from whatever background they come from. But in terms of developing, I think we lack personal development within our schooling system. We lack, when we're talking about girls' education, we still lack, our teachers lack understanding of how girls should be supported. And so all of this, I think, could be very well supported through the EdTech. It could be very well supported and changed through the single national curriculum. If I got the answer question right.
No, that's really very great input, and thank you very much. And I do agree that you have just emphasized that there is a need for educational emergency in Pakistan. And as soon as this COVID will come to an end, inshallah, it will never remain forever with us. We have to work on the education with, I think, more seriousness. There are concerns, and that are not only related to this IT thing. Yes, there is a lot to be done in Pakistan. As you have also mentioned that there is an apprehension that we have got more than 22.8 million children who are out of school, and God forbid, this figure may be increased. Yes, this can be increased, God forbid. Uh, Mr. Azfar, thank you very much for your brilliant input as well. You have stated that, yes, yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add that, we have to, and I keep repeating myself that the education emergency was always there in Pakistan. The pandemic highlighted that emergency. You see, that's what happened, that all of a sudden people understood what educational issues we actually have in Pakistan right now. So because there's been so much awareness raising around this subject now, which is gives us that opportunity to bring all the stakeholders together and to do some real time work on it, so we can see that change. Because obviously, without education, without giving our children the skills, we cannot expect them to become these wonderful entrepreneurs that we want to produce from Pakistan. We have so many intelligent children, so much intelligence. It's just amazing. What a clever nation we are. But without our foundations, I think, we're just setting ourselves to failure.
Very true that
Nasir Sahab,
educational emergency.
I would like
Yes,
to
please,
add,
Mr.
finally, I would like to add. Sorry, I had a horrible connection today, but I would like to mention that this has given us good opportunity as well. There's a startup based in Karachi by the name of Bolte Huruf. This startup is working with uh, those who have vision challenges, and they have developed a braille that can be used as a with the part of the uniform curriculum. They can have this braille access to all the schools across Pakistan. They are working on a model where this braille uh, can be included in the uh, textbooks, as well as this technology can be taught using braille. So this is just one invention or innovation by a startup based in Karachi, and I always believe that innovation, there is more room for innovation and improvement and problem solving when there is no infrastructure or lack of it. And Pakistan has the right moment where the government and the high authorities are deciding to have this single national curriculum. Maybe technology can really enable it and can give it the real push that's much needed. So I think so. It's a great time for us, and we can start off with some experimentation of probably using one subject or particular set of skills to just push it through, and maybe this just blind braille for blind can help in this part of kind of execution of this plan. So it's great time for all of us. So this is opportunity for all of us. So great to see this policy coming from the government, and I wish the likes of Rafique, Tahir Saab and the Minister Saab of pushing this through. So great job done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Syed Hussain, the program manager at National Incubation Center, Karachi, for your time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Fajer. You have represented Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education today. Mr. Arsalan Faruqui from Practical Schooling System, and you also represent Pakistan Academic Consortium today. I would also like to thank the CXO Global Forum for giving us this opportunity to talk on this topic of utmost pertinence. Single national curriculum, IT, and the role of EdTech is, talk of the town these days. And I have just received regrets from Mr. Rafique Tahir Saab, who is the Director General for the National Curriculum Council, and he is looking after the entire development of single national curriculum under the aegis of Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training, that due to some unavoidable reasons, he has not been able to participate in today's discussion. So I think hopes are high, and all of us are very optimistic that the single national curriculum, along with the inculcation of the element of technology, so we are going to see a very good future of our children in times to come. So thank you very much to all the participants. We are signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasir Saab, and
Thank
the
you.
rest of you. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We have some very interesting case studies and panels in the upcoming sessions. Thank you. And if you want to learn more about any of these panelists, we've shared some links in the description.